Welcome to the broadcast, everybody. This is an impromptu broadcast. I've just got half an hour, 45 minutes to cobble something together for you. So take it in that spirit, my dears, and settle down and share a cup of tea with me if you wish to, and sip the tea, because there's been a world exclusive, hasn't there, from the Markle family. Yes, we all knew it was coming, and here it is, and it's to be delivered on the eve of the coronation via 7 News. Australia, yes, all sorts of revelations coming out, so they promise. I'm not exactly sure what it will contain that we haven't heard of before, other than rather distressing footage of Mr. Markle Sr. after his stroke, which is upsetting to see. We all wish him well for that. We are given a few quotes within the trailer, but we can't see them within the full context of the piece, so we can only take it in that spirit. But one of the things they say to Thomas Senior is, "This will be your last interview ever." Make of that what you will. We are given glimpses into footage, unseen private moments from the young life of Rachel Ragland, also known as Meghan Markle, wearing tiaras. She loved a tiara, didn't she, my dear? And we see her as homecoming queen. Yeah, that she was preparing, wasn't she, for the Rainbow Tour, which went on to be known as the We Want Privacy Tour. Eva! Evita! Yes, my dear, she was ready for the motorcade at that young age, having the time of her life. But wasn't she the smart one? Isn't she continually telling us that she was the smart one? She was the geek. Nobody noticed the gal. Well, apparently she was, what is it they call it? Miss Congeniality. She was the motorcade Markle, my dear. She was. With her king. Yes, practicing for the Duke. And she performed as a child in her sort of kerchief, neckerchief affair with a hat. We get to see all of this sort of thing. Samantha tells us that Meghan would still be a waitress if it wasn't for Dad. Thomas Jr. tells us that we're not going to go away. This is going to change everything. It doesn't intimate what actual revelations there will be. So I'm curious to see. Samantha says that, presumably about Harry and Meghan, they're very unhealthy for each other. It's a toxic relationship. And Thomas Sr. says, "How can I fix this?" And calls it Dad's deathbed plea. So I'm not sure if they're sensationalizing that or if it is factual that he is on his deathbed, but that is down to Channel 7, or this 7 News Australia, whatever it may be. And in addition to this, we hear that Meghan has signed a megabucks deal, so reported, with William Morris. Yes, the William Morris Endeavour have taken on Archewell, the entity known as Archewell, yes, for new TV projects, film projects, the TIG Mach 2, yes. Remember, we've got the TikTok around the corner, and they are searching for brands and business deals. It's going to go from goop to poop. Variety magazine claims that these new agents will not be focusing on Meghan's acting, which is probably for the best, isn't it? Well, let's face it, she's competent. I do think that she was a competent actress. I haven't seen much of it, but it was okay. It was enough to get her hired and to get her a job, and I will never, ever take that away from her. But I think we can all sort of agree that mediocre at best. If that's harsh or unfair, then, a perfectly competent third, fourth fiddler, not the starring role, not the ingenue, not the focus or the protagonist of a piece. That's never going to work. She doesn't have that kind of charm. And that is why she never made it in that respect. But she did make it as a jobbing actress. And thousands don't. So, however she got there, whether it was ambition or some, well, I'm not going to call it talent, some ability, that is hers. She got that without a royal title. But yes, she never climbed to the dizzy heights, did she? She never had the opportunities that she had as soon as she was associated with royalty. It's royalty that gave her that, isn't it? That's why some of us have a little bit of problem with her milking that royalty by using her title and by disparaging royalty at every opportunity to elevate her position within the Hollywood field. And, to her, this is wonderful. She's in there with the bigwigs, but they still don't want her acting chops because they aren't up to scratch. And this agency, it also represents, I've got to say, among the trillions of big stars and the Serena Williams and this, that and the seventh, Henry Cavill is amongst them. And you know that I'm rather fond of a bit of Henry Cavill, my dear, so keep your hands off him, Rachel. She will work directly with the CEO, Ari Emanuel, and he's not to be trifled with in the industry. No, he's not. And the talent agent, Brad Slater. He's the one who represents Henry Cavill. And a pop culture branding expert, Nick Eade, said that she will be worth tens of millions, but it is a tacit admission that they have been poorly advised until this moment. He said she's had to find a home for herself and her brands because she can't actually manage them herself, and she doesn't actually know what she wants to do. So having a big agency like William Morris Endeavour means they will take that headache away from her and create a clear path of success, both personally, professionally, fiscally and financially. It will enable her to feel supported, and Archer will too. She can make tens of millions from this. Well, she can if she remembers that her talent is modest, that she is competent, but she is not a magnetic draw, and she would not be a big player if she were not married to a royal. But as I have always made clear, I think that she does have huge potential in the influencer category. And whenever I say this, a few people will shoot me down in the comments. Don't lecture me. You are entitled to your own views, but I happen to believe that she has great potential as an influencer for well-being, lifestyle, brand. Even if many of us see it as sophistry, even if us aren't keen on it, royalty has given her a huge platform to have influence. And I've wondered for the last 2 years why she hasn't been milking that particular cow. She was wanting to go on with the archetypes affair, this kind of thing. No one cares about her supposed philanthropy. No one really cares about anything she has to say unless she's disparaging the royal family because they love the drama of that. So it'll be interesting to see how she manages the TIG going forward, but brands are clamouring and will clamour to work with her. And just as there are certainly brands that wouldn't touch her, and it was only this week in the press that I was reading one of the young heiresses to the Rockefeller fortune, she was saying, because she pushes a jewellery brand, I think it is, and she was saying that she wouldn't hire Meghan personally because it's too controversial a figure. So I understand that there are those that won't touch her, but there are many that will, and there are many that work in association with these powerful agents and these brand representatives that would be crawling over hot stones to acquire her stamp as an influencer. And in usual circumstances, I would be wishing her well at this point if she wasn't marching under her Duchess title and insisting that her children invoke their right to call themselves Prince and Princess. But my concern, and what I think that we will see over the course of this future career as an influencer and brand and lifestyle amplifier, I think that she perfectly understands that her own talent is not quite enough to get the bums on the seats that she needs, and that it always needs to go in tandem with some sort of nod to the drama of the last few years. Perhaps I'm being incredibly unfair and too cynical, and it would be wonderful if that turns out to be true. But we shall see, won't we, my dear? Because it also isn't striking many of us as a huge surprise that this is the churn is happening at this precise moment as we lead up to the coronation. The timing of it and these announcements is interesting, isn't it? Should we put it that way, my dear? Interesting. And they say that one of the genres that interests the Duchess of Sussex is romantic comedy. Romantic comedy. That she wants to get involved with the production of that kind of thing. Well, I'm sorry, my dear. Stick to your lifestyle and branding and advertising. Say, oh, this is beautiful. I love this. And I love this little chain and this little bangle and this little tchotchke. That's what I think she would excel at. People would go out and buy it. Yes, they would. But what I don't think she will excel at is having any proper ideas, because she is so immature. She is not like a grown-up. She is certainly not like an established, seasoned woman in her 40s. in her high midsummer to late summer season that brings anything good to the table. I mean, you can imagine her, can't you, around these Archwell board meetings where she's an executive and sits there and tells everybody what's key, because she doesn't have the sophistication. You know, as we all know, Pearl was dropped. They took off that pearl, they clutched that choker, and they dropped it, my dear. Dropped it. And all of these other ideas she has. Oh, I've got David Furnish and Elton John. Let me share this wonderful idea with you. Uh-oh, here she goes. Here we go. We have other people to do that, Meghan. You can just front the campaign, but we have other people. No, I have ideas. And I want to show everyone how to be a feminist. And my history in changing the world of advertising for women and women of colour. Yeah, sure, Meghan. Just put your face on the cover. That will sell the copies. That's fine. But I'm more than just a face. Remember, I'm the smart one. I'm the beautiful and the smart one. And you know, I'm not really beautiful, but you know, that is the kind of flavour that she brings to proceedings. No one really takes her seriously as a force, a driving force of creative talent. Her talent is in merching. Yes, it is, and hustling. Fabulous talent for that, my dear. It's intrinsic in her personality and her psyche to hustle away, causing all this kind of mischief. But actually coming up with a creative idea, I think not, my dear. There's no sophistication, and as we discussed, she has no sense of humour. So can you imagine a romantic comedy produced by her with her ideas? We've already had that in the form of Harry and Meghan, the Netflix documentary. And yeah, that was watched by a few, so congratulations, my dear. But as for anything else, you know, bringing together a truly scripted piece with the right production team, the right cast, the characters, the crew, no one wants your worthy machinations, my dear. Your virtue signalling pieces that have morals at the heart of the story. No one wants them, lover. So one can only guess at what's lurking around the corner, can't one? It's rather distressing. But something that is more edifying is the fact that the Stone of Destiny was piped out of Edinburgh Castle this morning for the first time in decades, and it is now making its royal and regal way to Westminster Abbey, where it was previously housed for 700 years before it was reclaimed by Scotland. So that's rather exciting, isn't it? Sophie Edinburgh wowed me at an appearance this week, because I thought she looked so splendid. She was stunning in polka dots, in this sheer and silky number, surrounded by tall, burly gentlemen. Yes, she was in her element there, wasn't she, with the boys? Wonderful. In clover, you look beautiful, Sophie, my dear, and I'm sure that the gentleman thought it too, my dear, in beautiful surroundings at Buckingham Palace. And these people, well, you see, she's patron of the British Bobsleigh and Skeleton Association. You couldn't make it up, could you? Patron of all these weird, wonderful things. Yes, the Bobsleigh and Skeleton Association. I'm not sure where skeleton comes into it. And she met with the athletes and the staff for tea and cake. They had a lovely slurp and a lovely nibble and a giggle, and they all shared their gratitude to Sophie. I saw some very humble messages from them all saying how glad they are to have her as patron and what a wonderful job she does promoting their endeavours. So that was very nice. And her husband was away in Canada, which had slipped my attention, but the Duke of Edinburgh visited young people doing their Duke of Edinburgh Award in action in Canada, in East Vancouver and various parts. Have any of my Canadian fruits caught up with the Duke during his visit? Well, he met with Indigenous leaders as well at Massey College, at the University of Toronto. And isn't this an unusual colour for his tie and pocket square? It's not that often that the male royals these days will take a risk with colour, and I do love that bright tie there. I love that shade. And it actually reminds me that I've had a few comments saying that William needs to up his game a bit in the style stakes, and he does have a very classic, elegant style that is really rather flawless and immaculate in that respect. But as he progresses from Prince of Wales, and gets closer and closer to the throne, I do think that it would be an enormous pity if he didn't take more of an interest in a few more of the flourishes. No, I don't want to go over the top with it. I don't want to see him start prancing around in over-the-top pieces, but as we know, Charles has this wonderful relationship to Savile Row and to clothing. He takes a real interest in it and presenting himself in certain ways, as major royals have done in the past. the King Edwards and the Georges, and, you know, they all have. And William has that knack, but he has a very bland wardrobe, but it would be nice as he progresses to see a few little more points of interest. I really don't think it would harm him. We know that he wants to be everybody's friend and very down to earth, and, you know, he's very good at that, but some more regal flounces. Yes, more flounces. Oh yes, I will just say it. Be more flamboyant, my dear. Be more flamboyant here and there. It really wouldn't harm him. And also with regards to Canada, it's been confirmed that Prime Minister Trudeau will be attending the coronation. William and Catherine were in Wales again this morning, paying their respects for the Aberfan disaster of the 21st of October 1966. Remember that dreadful incident where the little school there was buried in a coal-tip landslide? Awful, awful, shocking incident. And the Queen famously visited the community in the wake of the disaster, eventually. Well, they're paying their respects today, talking with the community, including a couple of survivors who showed them around, showed them some news cuttings. They were presented with a lovely bouquet of pink blooms, and they looked very sombre, very regal, and brought a real sense of respect and reflection to the occasion. And it wasn't a beautiful morning. It looks so lovely there amid the sadness. Lovely to have a beautiful sunny day, and their royal presence with the leek brooch that looks so charming on Catherine. 144 lives were lost all those decades ago, including 116 children. It is too heartbreaking to think about. The memorial garden that they visited is on the site of that school that was crushed. Thank you for dropping in to share a little bit of time with me and perhaps a cup of tea. I hope I was able to bring you a little bit of company and enjoyment for a few minutes, my dear. And if you'd like to treat me to a cup of tea, my next one, well, my tip jar is in the description box below. So thank you for joining me, my dears. Take care, and I will see you very soon for another broadcast. Toodle pip.